Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the IAMCEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Heather Rader of Spirit Horse Vineyards. Heather, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Definitely the honor is all ours, and you're doing so many phenomenal things. What I wanted to do is just read a little bit more about Heather so you can hear about some of those awesome things. And Heather is the founder of Spirit Horse Vineyards, a 100% woman owned boutique winery based in Napa that empowers community and connection through delicious wines, unique member experiences, and philanthropy. The winery proudly supports the Spirit Horse Riding Center, an equine therapy rescue horse ranch that helps the next generation of girls thrive. Heather, great to have you on the show again. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I am. I'm so excited. Thanks so much.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, definitely excited to have you on. And as a recipient of the fabulous wine, I know you make so many, phenomenal products and make so many people happy. But before we jumped into that and what did you do, could you take us through a little bit more on how you got started, what I call your CEO story?
Yes, absolutely. My background actually, I started off in corporate. I was VP of sales at a Fortune 500 company for about 12 years. Ran about $100 million portfolio there at its peak. Managed a large team. There were things I loved about it, which was mentoring the team and teachables and all those things. That's what I really loved about my job. Um, but it really was, I really got to a point of burnout, and I was living out of hotels, and everything was looking good on paper, but I just was not feeling fulfilled, and wanted to do something where I could connect with people in a more meaningful way, and we could get something back into the community, which is just something that's just so important to me. Um, so um, that's how we started Spirit Horse Vineyards. I left that corporate job. I dumped my boyfriend at the time. This was many years ago, and I did a little walkabout through Europe and came back and started the winery.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And I love even it sounds like, especially with the mentorship and the giving back and that connection piece that you mentioned so well, that's coming through, everything you've been able to kind of create with all the awesome things you're working on.
For sure. And I think, for me as a consumer, I want to align my dollars with people and products that do give back into the community and that align with my value system. I really looked at it as from the consumer standpoint. I belonged to a lot of different wine clubs, and they were all really the same, which was I would just get my quarterly wine shipment every quarter. They had a harvest party every year. I didn't know who owned the winery. I didn't know any of the other club members. There was no giving back element. I couldn't choose my allocations every quarter. I was just told what I would take. And so I guess, as they say in the world, if you don't like what you're seeing in the world, you go out and create it yourself. So that's really what I did.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the entrepreneurial charge for sure. If you don't like it, then and you have that great idea, why not go about doing that? And I love how you mentioned too, like so many times we forget that the dollars that we have, they could basically be ways by which we could support causes or support certain initiatives or even not support certain initiatives. So I
Right.
love that you have that piece of that awareness around, being able to kind of support certain initiatives and organizations.
So as I was saying, I really think that you do vote with your dollars. Every dollar you spend, whether you realize it or not, like you said, either it's for something or it's against something. And I'm really about supporting marginalized groups. Whether that be the LGBTQ community, people of color, women. The interesting thing to me was that only 3% of wineries are owned by women, and only 10% of winemakers are women. So essentially, you have 99% old white guys, for lack of a better term, selling wine to 80% of wine buyers are women. So you just have this huge disconnect. And there's just this real disconnect, I feel like, in the value systems of the things that we hold dear, particularly community and giving back. So I really set out to change that narrative and change that dialogue.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you for mentioning that, and of course doing that as well, because I think so many times there's not enough conversation around being able to kind of I guess, reconnect that disconnect that often happens, and I think that, that's why I love entrepreneurship, and at the heart of it, being able to kind of create something because you see something that isn't how it necessarily should be. And rather than kind of resting on your laurels, you decided to kind of create that. So I commend you for doing that. And I know you're inspiring loads and loads of people to do that as well. And so I wanted to hear a little bit more about like what you're doing, with your company. Could you take us through a little bit more on how you serve your clients and what that looks like?
Sure. So, again, I think for me, I just really thought about, what are my unique differentiators? Again, we are women owned, which is rare. We do have a giving back element, which is sadly also rare.
Mm,
um, and we do help support the Spirit Horse Riding Center. So not only do we help children, we work with all kinds of groups. There's so many groups we want to help, right? That there's a waiting list. We help as many as we possibly can, but that's what I'm all about. We support this riding center where we rescue horses. So these horses are what we call second chance horses. For example, we have a horse named Hobie, who was a racehorse. If you know anything about horse racing, the minute they're unable to race anymore, they are typically put down on the spot. Hobie was saved from that, and he now is living out his life's purpose at our horse ranch as a therapy horse. He is the kid's favorite horse in the world. He's brown with little white spots, and it's just like such a beautiful story. I think of showing kids that they have worth.
mm.
And we particularly work with a program. We work with foster kids coming out of the Napa Valley foster care system, and showing these kids that they have worth, and that to go from a lot of times very abusive situations, and we put them on an 8-week leadership and empowerment program on those horses. At the end of that program, they are confidently riding a 2,000-pound animal, and leading it around, and the look on their face, and their shoulders are back, and they're confident, and that to me is what we're all about, right? You can drink beautiful wine, and you can also do awesome things within your community. And so it's really a really special, magical place. And that is one of our unique differentiators. Members can come to the Spirit Horse Riding Center in Napa. They can see exactly where their dollars are going. Besides drinking the beautiful wine, they actually get to see the rescue horses. They can see the kids. A lot of them have their corporation sponsor camps for the kids, which is great. And that's just more full circle for us. So we love to see that. And it's really an amazing community.
Yeah, and I appreciate you so much for doing that, especially, that self-worth, self-confidence piece that you kind of talked about that I think so many times we don't see, like we were talking about, you being able to kind of create that lane. It provides so much awareness and I think confidence to people that we sometimes don't realize are looking, that they can do that too, and that we're able to kind of see the world as we hope to see it. And I think that, as you said so well, when you're able to, have really phenomenal wine, with that really phenomenal cause that you have,
Yeah.
that's where you don't have to choose either or. You create a win-win-win-win experience. So I love that you've been able to do that.
That's certainly our magic sauce. So,
Mhm.
and like I said, it's one thing to talk about it, but I always invite people out to the ranch. It's a magical place. Like I said, a lot of people cry when and I always get the apologies. I'm sorry, I'm crying. And I said, why are you apologizing? I said, pretty much everyone cries. So it's really like, it reminds you of what's important in life. It is about
Mhm.
connection. It is about people. It is about lifting each other up, that all ships rise together.
Mhm.
That is what that place represents, and that's what the wine represents.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think that being part of the the secret sauce, and what you feel is definitely setting you apart is like, as you said, we often will forget that. I think especially with the hustle and bustle, even though we had like the people call it sometimes the great pause of this past year, it still is very necessary for us to kind of be reminded of what really matters,
Yeah.
and how we can be and create that impact in our lives by the things that we do and the things that we don't do. So I appreciate you for creating that kind of atmosphere and that culture.
Can't wait to have you out. I know you
Um,
got the wine, but it's not the same. So
yeah,
we got to get you and the listeners out for some out to the ranch. We would really love that.
absolutely. Yeah, the wine was just a bridge for me to get there. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting there and being around that, phenomenal environment. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and I want to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I made a mental shift. I used to think of myself more as a night person, and I realized that, um, wow, you just get so much more, for lack of a better term, shit done in the mornings. So you might have to bleep that out. But I really made a mental shift that I am a morning person. And I really, my biggest hack is adhering to a morning routine that is meaningful to me, that I know sets me up for success in the day. So, and it's different for everyone, right? Depending on where you are, time in your life, or what you need at that moment. But for me, it's, some meditation, and some time outside and some journaling. And it really helps me just get focused into my day. And then what do I really want to accomplish for that day? As you know, it's so easy to get just caught up in your email inbox. And then, you're being told what you're going to do with your day versus you saying, these are the things I need to focus on for the day. And I absolutely love having a few hours in the morning when no one else is really up and I
Mhm.
just get a lot done. So that's my hack, so to speak. I mean, I just think really creating an ideal morning routine that really works for you and sticking with that. I just think it's a great domino effect for the rest of your day.
Yeah, there's a phrase, and I think Tony Robbins said it. In order to win the day, you have to win the morning.
That's right.
And I definitely am a reformed night owl as well. So I definitely echo you do, and you can get a lot of shit done. I'll bleep that out too when you are able to kind of take advantage of the morning, because it just creates a certain energy around the day. Like you said before, the day sometimes can get a hold of us. If you're able
That's
to
right.
carve out that time to get your mindset right, to do whatever is part of your routine, but at the same time, be able to kind of get some work done sometimes before the world starts to pull at you.
For sure, for sure. And I'm a big, also, that's another thing too. You referenced Tony Robbins. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of all of it, right? Meaning, like, take whatever nuggets work for you. Like, read, right? And it keeps your mind fresh and being creative, and yeah, find different people that resonate with you. And I'm, one of my top values is learning. I love to learn. I'm always learning. I'll be learning to the day I die, I hope. And I think to have that mentality and that value system within you as an entrepreneur is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you said, that mentality. And I think so many times we don't realize that it's something that you can kind of adopt and do on a regular basis. But two, like some of the most successful people are quote unquote standing on the shoulders of giants, meaning they haven't done and created and thought of everything. A lot of times they're reading, listening to podcasts, going to seminar, doing whatever they can to continue to get better at who they are. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to ask you now for what I call a CEO nugget. And you might have already touched on this, but this could be a word of wisdom or a piece of advice. It might be something, if you were to hop into a time machine, you would tell your younger business self.
Oh, yes. This is one of my favorite questions. For me, in particular, societal conditioning, I think it's knowing your worth, especially when I was in corporate America. I remember the day I found out I was making almost a third of what my male counterpart was making, and I managed twice the amount of accounts and revenue, and
Mm,
I had team under me. I mean, all the things, right? And I just was, you know, upset about that, obviously. But I wasn't taught, and most women are not taught, especially to know their worth and to ask for it. And I remember walking into my boss's office that day, and I put a number on his desk, and I said, "I want this number on my desk tomorrow, or I'm walking." And in that moment, I knew my worth. I knew I was the top performer by far on the team. And guess what? The next day, I walked in, and the letter was on my desk with that number.
awesome.
So, key learning. Um, Advice to my younger self is to know your worth, ask for what you're worth. I used to take the junior people on my team, I would take them, my top performers, I would take them out for a glass of wine, and casually, like, let's run through how you ask for a raise,
Mhm.
right? And I have them practice with me. And then I would say, and tomorrow I'm going to make you walk in and actually ask me for a raise so I can give you this raise that you deserve,
Uh,
right? And just really paying it forward. And that was so fulfilling to me. But yeah, that was certainly my biggest lesson, was knowing my worth. It's important, and it's important as an entrepreneur. Are you pricing your product in a meaningful way? Are you pricing your whatever it is, your service, right, to what it's worth? And I think as a lot of us entrepreneurs early on, we tend to undervalue what we're providing. So I would say that's my biggest nugget.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I don't want to, put words in your mouth. It kind of sounds like those were seeds planted to everything that you're doing now, like creating that community, that culture, letting people know their worth and be able to kind of learn how to do that. Because I think so many times we think that sometimes you're just born with this, ability to know that. But I think it is sometimes something that you have to be learned, or it can be reinforced sometimes by your environment. And if that necessarily isn't done, then that needs to be kind of, I guess, practice, so to speak.
That's right. That's right. And I think it's our, duty, as as you rise up through the ranks, right, is to help. Again, all ships rise together,
Mhm.
and help mentor others. Mentoring is something that's near and dear to my heart. I've been a big sister for many years. I grew up with my dad was a big brother. Getting
Mhm.
back again, something that's just like in my DNA, but I think that all comes full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. And it manifests itself in so many different ways. But as have been able to do in so many different ways, whether it be, when you were working corporately or everything you're doing now, it creates a certain environment, and that environment becomes cyclical. So you start to really get a phenomenal kind of atmosphere. So absolutely appreciate that. And I want to ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Heather, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Being a CEO to me means freedom. Um, Truly, I would say probably my number one value outside of learning is freedom.
Mhm.
So to me, I spent many years again in the corporate world, where I was making a lot of other people a lot of money. um, and I wanted freedom to travel and spend my time where I wanted to spend it, and giving back, and creating this whole neat ecosystem. So to me, it's freedom. That's my biggest, I think, takeaway.
Yeah, and that's extremely powerful because I think so many times, again, like we were talking about self worth, a lot of times we don't realize that even, if we have a business or even if we don't have a business, sometimes we have the ability to kind of create that freedom in some ways in our life. And I think, when you couple that with the self confidence, with the self worth, then you can really go to another level because it begins not so much what can I do, it begins to become what can't I do. And I
That's
think
right.
that's a really phenomenal and powerful place to be.
For sure, and it's and again, you're modeling it, whether you realize it or not. You're modeling it for the next generation. So it's fun for me to show the foster girls, at the ranch. Hey, like not only you have worth, but like we care about like where you're going in this world, and you can do awesome
Mm,
things, right? I didn't grow up being handed, a lot. I didn't come from a lot. My father picked cotton. My grandfather couldn't write his own last name. He was illiterate.
mm.
So that if you work hard and you have a heart that's beautiful and you work hard, you can do anything in the world, right? So absolutely, it's the freedom of choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're reminded of that and you can see that being, exemplified in so many different people, that's when you really can start to look within and see what can you do, and start to move towards that. So Heather, truly appreciate that definition. And I appreciate your time even more. What I wanted to do is just pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
Absolutely. Well, I would love to. I mean, if you love wine, we would love to have you try some Spirit Horse. I do have a special code. If you go to SpiritHorseVineyards.com and you put in IMCEO, you will get $15 off any orders of $100 or more. And I also invite, if you do buy wine or join the club, of course, you're invited out to the horse ranch. And Gresham, I can't wait to see you. And your crew out at the horse ranch, but certainly you're invited there as well. My email is heather@spiritHorseVineyards.com. You can also DM us on Instagram.
Absolutely. Well, Heather, truly appreciate that. We will have the links and information in the show notes as well, too. And anybody who's listening, looking forward to seeing you there as well. Maybe we can get a whole crew to go there, which would
Love
be
it.
extremely awesome. But I
Let's do
love
it.
everything. Yeah, I love everything you're doing. I love everything, you stand for and what you've been able to build and create in so many different ways. So thank you so much again for your time and obviously the work that you do. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Gresham. You too. Take care.